Iron Factory Lyokaiser. From what I have so far, he's pretty damn good. All the members are expressive as balls. The combined mode is shaping up to be expressive as balls. But the transformation, well, I wouldn't call them bad, not by any stretch, but they feel somewhat underdone from what I've come across so far. Jaguars is fiddly, Leozax is fine but uneventful, and Hellbat, whom I would say has the best transformation out of the three I have so far, is cursed with these awful sliding rails that feel like they take the might of Primus just to push them in. Wait a minute. What's this? A new third-party company is coming up with a combiner that has a very similar aesthetic to Iron Factory's Lyokaiser? This isn't just them under a different name, right? Well, my lovely viewers, after months of play sessions, I can safely say that these two companies are not one and the same. Aesthetically, they might look similar, but the differences in their engineering... Oh, I think I've found a new favorite third-party Legends company. Greetings, people of YouTube, I'm Screaming Star, and today I'll be reviewing the Craftsman toy Steel Drill. Or, technically it's Steel Drill Hero, but that sounds dumb. Also known as the third-party version of the G1 technobot NOSECONE. This figure is a Legends class representation of a member to my favorite G1 Autobot combiner, the Technobots. I really like the Technobots because their Ultimos are unique, and they had a pretty interesting backstory in that they were created by Grimlock. NOSECONE here was the first to be created, so this being the first release amongst the lineup actually makes sense and is very charming in a way. Anyways, I don't want to lay on this segment too much. I've been dying to do this review for quite a while now, so let's just open up this elegantly compact box and see how the actual figure is. Right out the gate, this figure looks fantastic. I'll talk more about it later, but this is a definite improvement over Iron Factory in terms of plastic quality and engineering. As a whole, this figure is pretty much Iron Factory's breast force perfected, and that statement starts to apply when we take a look at his accessories. To start off with, you get a humble little pea shooter. Nothing spectacular at all, but it's a nice little complimentary weapon. His main weapons, to me, are these very well-sized arm cannons. Sometimes size does matter. They're not the most well-sculpted or painted, though I still find myself liking them quite a bit. This underslung aesthetic just hits me the right way, you know what I'm saying? You can also attach them backwards, perhaps as a form of storage. Lovely. But if you're not the kind of person who likes to take pieces off and onto a figure, I suggest for you to keep the arm cannons in this configuration, and when you want to deploy them, you could just use the transformation joint. This unintentional feature gives an extra level of playability to the figure, and I love it for that. Most likely how I'll be displaying him on my shelf. The barrels of the cannons are technically Blastovet compatible, but I'm not quite sure about the diameter of these parts. Too small for 5, but too big for 3. I would make a sex joke, but at this point, it's as predictable as the staleness of a new MCU movie. I'm using these pieces from the New Age Starscream boost effects for now. Oh, and these cannons have flippable handles, so that you can make them hold them as handheld blasters. Love it. But wait, the weapons don't stop there. If you look at this drill kibble on his back, it's actually detachable, and you can plug it into either one of his hands. Absolutely unnecessary yet badass feature that wasn't present on his G1 toy. Be careful with the connection though. It does feel a little precarious. Okay, so he actually does have one more accessory that isn't technically a weapon, that being this artillery unit. This will become his foot in combine mode, and I love how they actually have a purpose to these combiner kibble rather than them just being dead weight. Oh, Iron Factory. Attach this little pea shooter here to complete the look, and this serves as a nice additional armament for the figure. I love all the accessories here. They all integrate really well with the figure and provide a ton of fun factor, just like the figure itself. And speaking of, the figure itself is very, very good, but aesthetically, it's just alright. I mean, yeah, it's good, but it isn't mind-blowing in any way. This figure more so shines in the tactile aspect for me. Regardless, he still looks as good as he should. I like the stylization, which, yeah, I don't blame people who think this is made by Iron Factory. But honestly, I kind of prefer their figures as far as what meets the eye. They're just more sleek and dynamic as opposed to this guy's chonk. Said chonk isn't a bad thing though. I do enjoy how much of a brick he is, with the tank tread arms that add a decent amount of visual interest. My favorite part of this design is definitely the chest cockpit. The clear plastic windshield adds an extra hint of realism. really coming along well with this stylization. Conversely, my least favorite part of this figure's appearance, and this is very unfortunate, is his head sculpt. Such a nothing head. Borderland has nothing in common with the original. I'm not saying that he should be accurate, I'm just saying he needs more style, more visually interesting design aspects. Come on man, at least retain the G1 visor instead of these soulless optics. But fortunately, a mid head sculpt isn't enough to ruin a figure for me. That being said, yeah, the aesthetics aren't this figure's prowess. But when it comes to functionality, oh great heavens, I have never felt a third-party Legends plastic that's this dense and chunky. Literally, in a lot of areas, this figure feels like a Hashtag made product. Right onto his incredibly solid construction. Every joint feels super smooth, and the use of universal hinges for the thighs is one that I massively prefer over Iron Factory's use of ball joints. However, I do prefer the amount of articulation that Iron Factory provide their products with. Not saying this guy isn't fun to pose, it's just that there is one glaring issue with the posing, which I'll talk about right now. Okay, so the posability here is overall fantastic, but there's one tiny annoying part with the shoulders. The very boring head sculpt is on a ball joint and can look up even more so because of the transformation. Don't recommend you doing that. They rotate 360 just fine and they move out just fine when in this configuration, but you can't rotate them forwards or backwards, or when you rotate them forwards, you cannot move the shoulders outwards because it is simply too thick to give any clearance. This is a rare occasion wherein I actually would have preferred trigger-happy shoulders. It's frustrating getting any outward shoulder movement with this guy. Thankfully, the rest of the articulation is really good, but that is one really annoying part that I don't like. At least you get a bicep swivel and an extremely deep elbow bend. For how small his wrists are, you still get wrist swivels. How lovely. Waist swivel but no ab crunch due to the engineering, and that's fine. A point of articulation specifically directed towards the femba. It's for the transformation, don't worry. Front skirts move forward, allowing him to kick forward that far. Could go a little bit further if the knee pads don't encumber it. Move back about that far. He can do the splits. Thigh swivels, double jointed knees. The heels can move down for the transformation and the ankles can move up due to the transformation. That's really helpful. He does have toe swivels to simulate an ankle pivot, but if that doesn't satisfy you, you get a full-blown ankle pivot. Look at that. So yeah, overall really good articulation. It's just still, that doesn't prevent me from getting into some really cool poses. Despite that one glaring issue with his articulation, I still had a lot of fun posing and playing around with this guy. Definitely thanks in no small part to his hardware, but perhaps it's also because of him being in the Legend scale. Makes him feel more compact and dense for his size, leaving you with a very satisfying figure to handle. About his size though, how is he for a Legends figure? Well, to answer that, let's do some size comparisons. Here is Steel Drill, aka NOSECONE, next to Blocky's Starscream, his father, the Earthspark Grimlock.
Are you my father?
Comparing him to a regular 6-inch scale figure, we have the Marvel Legends Mr. Knight. And finally, here he is next to Iron Factory Hellbat, just so you can see the similarities between their aesthetics and size. So in the end, the robot mode is really good, but is slightly let down by the average steer aesthetic and that one issue with his posability. Can he regain those 2 points back when I talk about his transformation? Ooh, firstly, let me just say, welcome to pure fidget perfection. This transformation is addictive. now you want to plug in this cockpit into these two slots here, but I don't recommend plugging them all the way because they are too tight. So just plug them lightly like so, and there you go. I love that transformation. Literally the definition of a satisfying transformation for me. It's simple, but oh, was it ever so effective. And just as importantly, the result of said transformation is awesome. I adore this drill tank alt mode. It has a very 80s mecha anime aesthetic, as is appropriate for a technobot design. The treads look incredibly smooth and cohesive with nice little sculpted mud flaps on the front and the rear. Above these treads is where you can store his arm cannons from the robot mode. And it looks awesome. Gives him some extra firepower for this mode, and it serves as a neat homage to G1. Lovely. The back of the drill tank isn't anything special, but I do like how they bothered to give him boosters that were hidden in the robot mode knee pads. A nice extra attention to detail just to show that the designers actually care. Moving to the front of the chassis, you can see this small yet really nicely detailed cockpit, which again, don't plug the tabs in all the way, they're a pain to remove. And of course, the main event of the drill tank mode is, well, this massive drill smack bang on the front. I haven't actually talked about the drill in robot mode, so let me just say that this thing is sculpted and painted excellently well. It's also really sharp, so be careful with it. Functionality wise, the drill can spin. Would have been cool if it were looser, but oh well. And the tank itself can roll. Though it doesn't roll the best, the wheels are a bit too small for their own good. It would have been cool if there were some kind of a drill spinning gimmick, but oh well. This vehicle mode is already as good as is. Not much else to say about this thing. Let's move on to his size comparisons and see how he stacks up. Here he is next to Starscream, Grimlock, Mr. Knight, and finally, Hellbat. Oh, and that, I feel like I'm British in it. So there goes my, wait a minute. We're not done quite yet. Don't forget that this figure is a combiner limb. Specifically, he turns into the left leg for Computron, the combined name of the technobots, if I haven't mentioned that already, oopsies. So you know what? Let's talk about said foot mode in a quick segment before I wrap up this review. Starting with the very simple transformation. I probably don't even have to shut up for this one. It's literally just a couple of steps away from the vehicle mode. Here's the leg mode. Yeah, he works pretty dang well as a leg. Sure, a lot of it is kibble, but hey, it's a Legends figure. It's not gonna have as much room to implement extra engineering for the appendages. I'm not gonna dwell too much here since I'll of course need to save it for the full Computron review. So for now, here are some size comparisons and we'll be done with this review. Right, so there goes my review for the Craftsman Toys Steel Drill. With this figure alone, Craftsman Toys are already looking to become my favorite 3P Legends company. This figure is just so damn fun. No wonder it got the 7th spot in my top 15 figures of 2024 list. It is a masterclass of Legends engineering that prioritizes tactile feel over aesthetic prowess, and I honestly quite dig that ideology. I definitely recommend him to any Legends class collector, or just to anyone who wants to have a fun and compact desk toy. Goes without saying that I am more than enthusiastic for the rest of the combined team. And what's this? They're also planning to make a Terracon set? Alright, Craftsman Toys, you have my consent. With all of that being said, I would like to say thank you so much to everyone who watched this video. What did you think of it? If you enjoyed it, leave a like. Got something to say, leave a comment. And if you like my channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Farewell, fellas. I'll hopefully see you all next time. And in my next review, you'll find out why I prefer this figure over this. I'd say strap in, because this might be kind of a controversial one. Oh boy.